in matchups. Sometimes you can do that, but last year, it wasn't happening. And by the time I shored up my defense, it was a little too late. I wished if I had had that defense the whole season, then things would have been differently. So that's a good piece of advice too.
Yeah.
We have touched on a couple of the Browns players here through our talks, with Jordan Cameron here and not having Josh Gordon. For people here in Cleveland, anybody on the Browns outside of who we've mentioned that you've got even on your radar as, hey, this is a good sleeper pick, look out for this guy, any of the Browns players out there in your mix?
I don't. That's my short answer.
Makes sense. It's fantasy football, man.
All the main receivers have just come from different teams because they weren't going to excel on those teams. Nate Burleson was okay in a couple opportunities last year in Detroit, but wasn't the kind of guy that Detroit wanted, and now he's in Cleveland. Miles Austin was starting to run out of steam in Dallas. Now he's in Cleveland. Andrew Hawkins was mediocre in limited playing time, a little better than mediocre, but mediocre in limited playing time in Cincinnati. Now he's with Cleveland. And the concern right now is that Cleveland has a somewhat untested, although I really like Brian Hoyer. I liked what he did last year right before he got hurt. Quarterback, and then, a great defense. Really, Cleveland's defense should keep them in games a lot. I don't see any of the receivers, aside from George Cameron, averaging more than about 40 yards a game. I think these are all 500-yard guys who are not going to be fantasy-worthy in all but maybe one game this season.
I really expected nothing less. I mean, that's just the reality. Fantasy football is all about statistics. And, I mean, even if these guys win games, they're not going to pile up statistics along the way. As you said, it's going to be riding a punishing defense, and a running game is going to give you your best chance to win from week to week. And I got to tell you, I'm not sure about that. I think there's going to be certain weeks, certain matchups that the Browns defense is going to be a killer fantasy defense, but not week to week. I would I could see using them as a handcuff, keeping them as your backup, and hitting them a certain couple of games where, maybe you've got a Jacksonville on the schedule or something like that, and you're going, man, okay, these guys have been turning the ball over a lot. But, yeah, week to week, I still don't trust real life. I don't trust the Browns defense yet, let alone in fantasy. We'll see what they do when the games are real, but you don't get to do that. Yeah. You have to make your pick before you know. So good luck making that choice there for those of you in the league. Man, I'm excited. Another fantasy football season upon us here. Anything, like, we've gone over a lot here. Anything you missed or anybody you want to mention here before we call it a day and head into the season?
I'll do the two more predictions. Just the last two real quick. Toby Gerhart will not be a top 30 running back. I had some upset people on my blog when I said that. It was nothing personal against Gerhart. He's an unproven commodity late in his career. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear, but I don't like what his potential is. And his potential, I think, is about 60 yards on the ground, maybe 20 yards in the air, and the occasional score. I just don't think that's a guy he's been going fourth, fifth round in most drafts. I'm staying far away from Toby Gerhart. I think that Jordan Todman or Denard Robinson would be much better handcuffs to take in the 14th round than Toby Gerhart in the 4th or 5th. And then finally, Greg Zuerlein. A lot of times these rankings, you got to take a close look. When guys don't do well in a given year, they often fall way down in the rankings the next year, even if they're good, even if their value has nothing to do with what they brought to the table. It's just their team may have suffered. And Greg Zuerlein has probably the best leg in the business. Very strong kicking leg. Had 13 attempts from 50-plus yards 2 years ago. Had only 2 attempts last year. If the Rams offense with Sean Hill at quarterback is able to move the ball any better than the backup did last year, and they have Zach Stacy at running back, they have a very good receiving core, an underrated receiving core in Kenny Britt, Brian Quick, Tavon Austin, Chris Givens. If they can keep moving the ball and just get it within the 40, Zuerlein should be lining up for a lot of field goals. And the guy is very accurate. He just needs chances. So I'm picking Zuerlein as a top 5 kicker, and we'll see what happens from there.
I'll tell you, I've liked him for the last few seasons. He's ended up being, whether he's made it the whole season or not, he's been a kicker I've tried to hang on. You mentioned Zach Stacy. You high on him this year?
I am. Maybe I shouldn't be. Third round last Thursday, I just picked up Benny Cunningham in the first round of waivers. And I feel good about having Cunningham as a backup. I still like Stacy. Stacy is like a Le'Veon Bell to me. He didn't rush for 4 yards to carry, but he's a bruiser. I mean, he can put 20, 22 touches, 24 touches a game, get right back up the next week and still put up big points. The challenge at the end of last season was he played Seattle, he played San Francisco. I'm not expecting him to do well against those teams. What I am expecting to do against mediocre defenses, I'm expecting 100 yards and the occasional score, and that's what Zach Stacy can give you.
My man, BJ Rudell, Fantasy Football for Winners. This is just a taste. Every Thursday, 1:30, we will get you ready for Thursday Night Football, get you ready to know who to start and who to sit in your lineups. And next Thursday, when we kick things off, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, I'd love to shoot the draft over to you Tuesday night and have you take a look at it and just kind of give me your thoughts on how our draft shakes out. And then we'll look at the first week of the regular season, and you can do your thing. You're the guru here. You can tell people sitting, start them, all of that.
Sounds good. I like it.
All right, BJ, my man, have a good one. Of course, people can tweet with you at BJ Rudell, and they can check out your website, fantasyfootballforwinners.com, correct?
Right on Facebook. Fantasy
I'm sorry,
Football
on
for Winners.
Facebook. Fantasy Football for Winners
I'm too
is
cheap to get my own blog. I just have Facebook paid for it.
There you go. All right, my man, BJ, you have a good one. Enjoy the final week of preseason football here. Enjoy any fantasy football drafts you got left. Let's start doing it for real next week.
Sounds good. Take care.
All
Good
right.
luck in your draft, J.R.
You too, man. You have a good one, BJ. Well, doing it for real, in a fantasy football, of course, a real fantasy kind of thing. A whole juxtaposition of real and not real. Anyways, guys, love it. Talking to my man BJ Rudell every Thursday. If you're a fantasy football guy, be here at 1:30 and get the scoops that nobody else has got from BJ Rudell. We're going to take a break, come back, set the stage for tonight. It's a doubleheader. Chi-Town and Cleveland. Going at it baseball, going at it in football, going at it in two separate cities. We'll set the stage for all of that here tonight. Oh, hey, by the way, speaking of fantasy football, if your dander's up and you want to play with us, we have one spot available. Somebody is going to win the championship belt again this year like Dean Samples did last year, and a little something else may be mixed in there as well. Email thesportsfix@AOL.com and say, J-Rock, I want a shot to get in your fantasy football league. Only a few days left before I lock it down and we draft it on Tuesday. Email me, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Say you want to play some fantasy football. There may just be an opportunity for you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, setting the stage for tonight, we'll preview the Browns and the Bears and the Indians and the White Sox, Chicago and Cleveland, oh my, and wrap up the show when we come back. Hey, phone lines are open if you couldn't get in before. 216-539-7535. Final segment, 216-539-7535.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Indians fans, GV Art and Design has unleashed their new baseball collection. This summer, you've got to have one of the hottest baseball shirts available. GVArtwork.com, bringing it full force to the plate for baseball season this year. Whether you check them out online, GVArtwork.com, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase. Whether you go to their store in Lakewood, check them out at the Cleveland Indians team shops, and so much more. GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck, home of the low price tire guarantee. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Back in 1990, when I joined Herb in the booth, you could say that first game was when I became a lifelong Tribe fan. Something about Cleveland made us want to stay and call it our home, raise our family here. I can promise you one thing, home or on the road, I feel what you folks feel, what you feel every game. Cleveland fans are passionate and pretty vocal. I respect that. This is our team. This is our town. This is a tribe town.
This is Josh Tomlin of the Cleveland Indians, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, final segment across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We've been all over the place today. Thanks those of you that have stuck with us through the beginning, that stick with us each and every week as we do the Sports Fix thing Monday through Fridays at noon here. Tomorrow, end of the week, we will have a final preseason game. Man, I always love saying the words final preseason game, whether it's any sport. You get to the point where you're like, okay, can we just start playing them for real now? Final preseason game. We will also be heading into a crucial series here on the road. Middle of the road trip for the Indians as they switch to Kansas City, where the stakes get even higher. Tomorrow, Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire, will be here to talk about that. We'll talk, of course, his thoughts on the Browns and all of the things going on with them. My man, Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com. He'll be in the house breaking things down. Ryan Ruiz from the Inscriber as well, getting their last thoughts in, final roster cuts, final whatever it is, because the Browns do all of that roster cleaning up this weekend. And then it's like we said, it starts for real, and it all rolls next week with Pittsburgh. So all of that coming your way tomorrow, getting you set for not only the weekend, but a holiday weekend as well, a long weekend coming up. So looking forward to that, but that's tomorrow. We're still doing the today thing. A lot to go into tonight. Well, we're going to preview these games here momentarily. I wanted to real quickly toss back. I meant to do this earlier in the show, and then the train just kind of started running away on me. We ended the show yesterday. I brought up the story about Joshua Shaw, the cornerback for USC, and the crazy story that was kind of floating out there with him being injured and then saying that he jumped out of the second story of the apartment complex to say who was drowning in the pool. He got 2 high ankle sprains that are putting his early part of his season in jeopardy. The school didn't believe him. They were vetting things. Other people came out of the woodwork, said the story wasn't true. Next thing you know, there was a police report from over the weekend that said somebody with the same name, Joshua Shaw, but not confirmed as being the same person, was involved in a break-in at an apartment building downtown over the weekend, the same night that Shaw was hurt. So it turns out that the description, and there's been more details of that's come out since, police responded to a call of a break-in at an apartment, and they identified somebody who fits the description of Joshua Shaw jumping out of a window and leaving the apartment. And it appears now that is the case, and that is how he was injured, although still there's been another third story out here, as now Shaw's attorney says that he was injured falling off of a balcony at an apartment complex on Saturday night, but that, quote, there was no criminal activity involved whatsoever. It's all, he's got himself a lawyer. He's buttoned down from comments. USC has suspended him for lying to the team about the story. Nobody has yet gotten to the bottom of it. I'm just going to say, even whether there was a criminal or not criminal element involved, what are you doing in situations where you're falling off of balconies, even if that story is to be believed, man? I don't know. Not the safest way I would want my son spending his Saturday night in college. I would begin questioning my son's judgment if he's fallen off of balconies and injuring himself at that level. But regardless, 3 different stories. There's police reports, all of that. Like I said yesterday, and it turns out that it was a false story. If you're gonna go back to practice and you're going to tell your coach a yarn, I don't know that he picked the best one. I mean, to give the hero's tale, I mean, you had to have known. Look at everything comes out. Manti Te'o, all of that. Look at all these high-profile cases lately. Everything comes out in the wash. like that, whether you wanted it or not. By the time you finish the sentence, there's somebody out there fact checking to see. That's why I always correct and make sure like the little details of what we're talking about are as accurate as possible, because somebody's going to be right there to jump on it, and that's cool. That's accountability. So, man,